Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claret and Booze. My name's Nick, and this is, I suppose it's not the morning after, it's the afternoon after the game before. I wonder if you're all feeling better today. I mean, I'm feeling okay. It was very disappointing, wasn't it, last night? A lot of the points that I covered, I kind of backed up. I don't think I was too harsh. I weren't too harsh on anyone. I back up entirely what I was saying about Aguirre. You know, he's had plenty of plaudits since he's come in. You know, he's been called a Rolls Royce on multiple occasions, and unfortunately, look, it was a combination between him and Antonio, and maybe Areola as well. They were the reason that we went out last night, but it was more Aguirre. He had a real bad capitulation yesterday. It was awful performance from that man. But look, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and if you enjoy the show, please drop a like on it. Gary is on his way back from Manchester. In fact, I think he should be back, so he'll probably be releasing another video as well, which will supersede this one. But I just wanted to get my thoughts out there again. Not so much on the game, more so probably going to be quite an unpopular video, this, because I know that people's emotions are running high still, if social media is anything to go by. Mikel Antonio. Now, look, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I like Mickey. I do. I know full well what his limitations are as a footballer. He's not technically gifted. He's not. But he's given everything in the years that he's been with us. He's been with us for a long time. He's a long-serving player. I'm not going to bang on about he's our all-time record Premier League goal scorer, because he is, but it's not a great amount of goals. It's more testament to the fact, to West Ham, the fact that he is our all-time goal scorer as opposed to anything else. But look, that is the case. That is his record, and you got to factor in that he's managed to sort of accumulate those goals through playing in whichever position that we've needed him to play in at any one time. You know, he's played right back, left back, right wing back. He's played in central midfield. He's played right wing. And now he's been converted into a forward. Wherever you ask Mickey to play, to do a job, he will try to the best of his ability to do it. Seeing it all unfold last night, and again today, it hasn't calmed down. You know, the criticism, it's worse than criticism. You know, it's one thing criticising a performance, which is, I suppose, what I did yesterday with Aguirre. Aguirre was shit. Aguirre isn't shit. He's a good footballer. But he was terrible yesterday. He was awful. You know, we don't want to be seeing that again. But to actually sort of come out and be personal and start condemning players for being finished, for being this, for being that, you know, get out of our club, you know, you're rubbish, you're finished, all that sort of stuff. And worse. Far, I've seen far worse than that, on especially on Twitter. I fucking hate Twitter, I've got to be honest. It's not for me. It's just something that we have to use. We just have to be involved in it, but it's not my favourite platform at all. And some of the criticism on there is horrific. It really is. And you know, these players read this stuff. They do pick up on it. I know that there's apparently a social media ban which was imposed by Declan Rice, but look, that's all nonsense. We know, you know, all they've got to do is pick up their phone. They're gonna see all that, and that's not gonna help anyone. And it's not fair. And then we've got fans, you know, myself included, you know, come out, and we're enraged when the likes of Declan Rice does what he does in an England press conference and sort of flashes his knickers at some of the big six because he wants to go and win things in his career and stuff like that, you know. And we go, no, if you don't want to play for us, go and play somewhere else. We want loyalty. That's what we want. We want loyalty. Well, now, not speaking on behalf of all fans, because not all fans are the same. I'm not, for one. But the likes of Cresswell, we're seeing it with this year and last. You know, I want Cresswell phased out of the team and replaced, but I don't discount what he's done. And the same with Antonio. But the lack of respect that we show long-serving players particularly is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. How can we expect players to take us seriously and be loyal to us when the minute it looks like they're coming to the end, we want to cast them aside? You know, get rid of them. They're done. They're finished. Throw them on a scrap heap. You know, you can't be like that and then piss and moan when players just want to leave. You can't. It's no wonder, really. You know, with the way that people react with stuff like that, and with players it does bother me. With players it does. I've had my own moments with certain players in the team who I think are not good enough, but they're typically not long-serving players. Players like Souček was never my favourite type of player. He never was when he came in. I don't discount what he did. I think he was brilliant for a year, 18 months or so, until he got found out. The same with Soufal. So players like that, but they're not long-serving players. Players that have been there and are part of the furniture. They deserve a little bit better than that. They deserve more for their loyalty to West Ham, for the fact that they've stayed there for that long, for the fact that they've kind of, dedicated the majority of their career to playing for us. We should be a little bit better than that. The fact of the matter is, once these players are not good enough to play for us anymore, they will be phased out. They will be removed. And the only reason that we're calling on these players at the moment is out of necessity. And the fact, do I think Antonio should be playing up front on his own at the moment? No, not really. I don't think he should be played up front at all. But it's not him. He doesn't pick himself. David Moyes picks him. And the reason that he picks him is because Antonio fits in a David Moyes system. Now, if goal scoring was part of the mandate of a striker in a David Moyes typical system, then Mickey would never be picked. But he's his preferred player, and it doesn't matter to David Moyes that he doesn't score. It matters to Antonio because he knows he's got that number 9 on his back. He knows that the fans think he's a striker, and he knows that the fans want him to score goals, and I'm sure he wants to score them as well. But I don't think David Moyes is that concerned, because when he plays with Antonio up front, he doesn't really. For instance, he's been converted into a striker, but has he really? He's still a winger playing up front. He's not told to go and make those darting runs, even though they're probably not the type of things that you can tell people to do. What I mean is, he isn't goal hanging. He isn't a fox in the box. That moment that I mentioned twice on the video last night, where Emerson overlapped Benny on the left-hand side and flashed that beautiful ball across the 6-yard box. Danny Ings would have been in there. He would have been in there. He would have got on the end of that. Whether it had scored or not, I don't know. But like I said, that's how our second goal materialised against Nottingham Forest, because he is a fox in the box. He scores inside the 18-yard box. But then what Danny Ings wouldn't do is what Mikel Antonio does, which is what David Moyes likes. He likes the fact that someone, we can pump the balls up to him. He can hold loads of defenders off. He can run the channels. I mean, the first chance that he had where he was put through one-on-one, Danny Ings possibly wouldn't have had the pace to have got away like Antonio did in the first place. I don't think that he is an off-the-shoulder striker. I might be wrong. I hope to be proved wrong, but I don't think that is him. I think he's literally a poacher. So I don't think you can really make comparisons with Ings for that chance, because, if the ball falls to Ings in that position, he's going to score because he's instinctive. He's a finisher. But the second one that Mickey got, where he roasted Martinez, the ball was fed out to him, he kind of created that chance himself. He was given the ball, but he's the one who skinned the defender and went through on goal. And should he have passed it? In retrospect, because he missed, yes. He should have passed it. He should have squared it to Benrahma. It would have been 2-1. But what striker squares the ball when they're just outside the 6-yard box like that? They don't. They want goals. He's got fans on his back. He's got people criticising him. It must be such a pressure position. And it is fine margins, because they were 2 chances that he had that he's being judged on. His whole performance is being called shit because he missed 2 chances. 2 chances that he got on target, right? The first one, he just had to take the shot a little bit quicker. But that stems from the fact that he's not a clinical striker. He's not an instinctive striker. There isn't really too much that he can do about that. Not really. Maybe if he was coached in that way, then he would. But like I said, I don't think he's coached to be a typical striker. I think he's just been shifted out that way because his attributes suited what David Moyes wanted in that forward line. He hasn't been converted. He's the same player. And the second one, again, I don't know. I really don't know what people kind of expect from him. I'm not saying that he's a good. I don't think he should be playing up front. I don't think he'd be playing up front on his own for many teams at the moment. I don't think he would. Maybe off the bench. Maybe off the bench he'd be an option. But I think he'd be more likely to be an inside forward. Coming off the left or off the right, which is typically where he's better. That was his best position, I think, when he plays out wide. You remember when we originally put him up front, he gravitated out to the wings because that's where he's natural. That's where he's most comfortable. And we were all sort of caning him, saying, "Oh, the striker's got to be in the box. The striker's got to be in the box." I feel really sorry for the guy because he's just filled in for us, and he's really tried to make that position his own. He's tried to give it his all, and he isn't finished. He's not finished. He might not be good enough to be our starting striker anymore. He ain't as good a striker as Danny Ings. Of course he isn't. He's not. He never has been. Danny Ings is. If he hadn't have had the injuries that he got, he would have been one of the top strikers in the Premier League. He's brilliant. He's a great player. So you can't draw parallels with Ings because you just can't. It's not fair. I just think it's such a shame that it's hard to gauge because it looks like there's an awful large percentage of fans have turned on Mickey the way that they have, and I think it's wrong. A lot of people call him lazy and arrogant and this and that. He ain't fucking lazy and arrogant. He wouldn't have got to where he is now if that was the way. He's come from nothing. It's a proper Roy the Rovers story from him. He's come from Tooting and Mitcham all the way through the lower leagues, all the way up to the Premier League. You don't do that unless you're incredibly hard-working and you've got something about you. And he's always carried on improving, and he's got to be the best that he can be. He is rough around the edges. We know that. But that's part of the charm of his game, I think. And do I think he's finished? Do I want him sold? No, not really. I mean, if he gets sold, good luck to him. But I think he's a good player to use off the bench. If somebody manages him correctly, I don't think David Moyes does. I think he throws him to the lions. He puts him in a position that suits David Moyes because he just wants him to be a water carrier up front, somebody that gets beat up by the centre-backs, and then, Antonio can just feed the other little tricky players in and around him, because that's what he's there for. He's there to feed the other players. But it's no good for Antonio, It's a little bit like what we're seeing happen with Fornals, where Fornals has had the attacking aspects, which we know he's got, sort of almost drained out of his game, and he's the only way he can now really get into a David Moyes team is if he really does kind of adopt that defensive mindset. That's which he does. He's a responsible player. He wants to do what the manager asks, what's right for the team, and he does a job. But we know that there's so much more to Pablo Fornals than that. But that's not the player's fault. And again, people are sort of getting the ump with him as well. Aaron Cresswell, if you go back to him, his legs were gone. Yeah, his legs were gone, but he's still a good left back. The main problem came because David Moyes was using him as a bloody wing back. So he'd get up the field, but then he wouldn't have the legs to get back. So whose fault's that? Is that the player or is that the manager? Refusing to address things and adapt to suit the players that he's got. He just doesn't do that, So no, I kind of feel sorry for these players. I feel sorry for Mickey. I hope that the fans calm down, and I hope he gets a decent reception. The next time we play, because, like I say, they do. He's got a bloody podcast. They live on social media. That guy is going to think that West Ham fans detest him. Even if you don't like Mickey, do you really want him to feel like that? And like I say, I do have loyalty to players. I do. I'm not quite the same with managers, as you all know, especially managers that play the style of football that I hate and that hamstring players, because I get more attached to players than I do managers, and I don't give a shit about the board. Managers are there to serve a purpose. When they're not serving that purpose anymore, they can go. But players, they're one of us. We go to watch them. They're our heroes. They're the ones that sort of make or break us. So, yeah, it's just such a shame that we have to turn on them like that. And like I say, I'm not turning around here saying that Antonio should be our number one. He should be in the team. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying he doesn't pick himself. And I'm saying he's not lazy, and he does do his best with his limited skill set. That's all I'm trying to say. I still think when another manager comes in the summer, which they will, I think you could see Mickey staying, and I think you could see somebody else get a lot of use out of Antonio, because there weren't any shortage of takers in January. We could have sold him for 10 million. Wolves wanted him, Lopetegui wanted him, He's better than Traore, who they use off the bench. Mickey is. We just put him in a position which makes him exposes his weaknesses to a degree. There's some aspects where he looks good, where he can kind of shoulder someone out of the way and barge past them and he's gone. But then there's other aspects when he's through and he's bearing down on goal. He just doesn't have that instinct. That's the thing. He can train and he can practice as much as he wants, but that striker's instinct is something that's born into him. You can't teach it, especially at Mickey's age. You can't. So, yeah, like I say, I just wanted to put my thoughts out there about Antonio, really. It's a shame last night. I think we deserved an awful lot more. We were very close. Apart from some individual areas, we would have at the very least been going through to extra time and penalties because we didn't deserve to lose it. That 3-1 really flattered Man United. They didn't deserve that scoreline at all. But no, so look, I'm not displeased with that. I'm not having to go at all the West Ham fans and everything. You know, who am I to fucking ever go at anyone? I'll kick off as much as anyone else. But Twitter, you know, I don't know. It gets really personal. You know, when you're having to go at someone directly about more than a performance, you can't, because like I say, you're a football fan. You can have a go at someone if they played bad. You can say they played shit. That's fine. You're criticising their performance. But it goes a bit further with Antonio, and I just think it's out of order. I think it's out of order anyway. But look, let me know what your thoughts are. That's it from me. Gary might be back later. He's packing to go on holiday, I think. He's on his way back from Manchester. He should be back. And he said if he gets time in between packing and whatever else, he'll try and record a ramble. The other thing that we're doing is we're recording our boozecast tonight as well for release tomorrow. So you'll be getting a Friday boozecast in the morning. All right, but look, that's it from me. Thanks for listening. And again, like I said at the start of the video, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And please, please, please drop a like on the video because it does help us. All right, thank you very much, and come on you Irons.